Hi, Carrington. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I am just so great. I'm so thrilled to get to talk to you again. We got to talk a little bit earlier this year when we were just trying to get into 2021 and get the zero off the century there of the year and move
Right.
into some new territory.
Yeah.
So glad and we have some great stuff to talk about today. We have the new album to talk about.
Yes. Woohoo.
So it's just recently released, and of course, songs have been out there. And, you've been releasing songs, and I know you had a Valentine's Day release of a single, and you had another single since then. And then there's six more songs, and a couple other songs, like you said, in the UK were released. But now they're all together in a nice package to be all listened to in a sequencing kind of an order.
Yes, it's nice to have them all in one place, as it were.
Yeah, yeah. So I know that you've been working on the songs for a long time, and waiting for that right moment to let this album drop. And
Mhm.
so now here we are with the album out, and with the songs themselves, um, they I don't know if they feel new to you anymore because you've been working on them so long, but they're new to us. But you've been working on them so long and kind of waiting for that right moment. Does it seem strange now that they're all in that package and they're out there and like people are, oh, new music? You're like, hey, I've been working on this. This is
Well, it's newer than an album often is for me because some of these came together quite quickly and were recorded quite quickly. Uh, and they have been through some process for sure. I mean, I am well familiar with them, but the difference is having them all together like this it creates a whole different work.
right.
A collection is a whole different work. And so even though I know each song individually inside out, I did at some point listen to the whole record all the way through from top to bottom, and I heard them differently because they're a collection now and they're in a certain order for particular reasons.
I think that's a neat part of listening to an album is that the sequencing, it does come to, sometimes it's very intentional. Sometimes it comes together later. You say, oh, I like the way that's. But I think there's a big part in when we listen to albums as music fans also that the sequencing, you remember the first track on an album sometimes, or you remember what comes after it. And
Yes, yes, that all kind of sticks with us, doesn't it?
yeah,
And sometimes if we don't hear the song, if we've listened to an album a lot, and I don't think people listen to albums as much as they used to, in toto, but if you do, and if you've listened to a record a lot in that order, it always seems strange when a song that you hear isn't followed up by the one that you're used to hearing it followed up by.
absolutely. It really is different. Yeah, you feel unnerved for a moment, like what happened to the other song?
Where's that? Where did it go?
Right. I love to listen to things in the order that the artist intended. I really do. I love that part of the process because there is meaning to that,
Yes.
a lot of meaning. So,
Mhm.
so let me just bring back our future audience again here, and as we go into the album, here with Carrington MacDuffie. Uh, just I don't know what I could say about all the different things that you do. Music is one of the many things we talked about it last time, and I'm curious to see of all the things we talked about last time, like what is we'll talk about that later, but there's so many Bitcoiner, racing car driver, racing cars and voiceover work and so many different things that you do. After we talk about this album a little bit, I just kind of want to see where you're at today with some of these other projects, kind of dabbling in here and there. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But for those of you who are just getting to know Carrington's music and her story, there's a lot to be told in through her music and through the way she lives her life. So welcome back to another time with us to get to talk today.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. I really enjoy our conversation.
Thank you so much. So the album Sweet Little Mystery.
Yeah.
I love the title track. We'll go in order, of course, but I
Okay.
just love the title track. So I love that the album's called Sweet Little Mystery, and we'll get there in just a moment. But let's just start at the top of the album because we just talked about sequencing and how important that can be for different artists. And sometimes for some artists, maybe not so much. It just depends, but it's important to us as music listeners, right?
Absolutely. I think, as a listener and as the creator of the album, it certainly matters to me.
Yes.
The flow, that you're looking for, and the energy. You want the energy to change up but flow at the same time. For me, it's more about energy flow and transformation than it is about subject matter content.
Right. And we talked last time too about inspiring people, you know, and inspire if we accidentally or intentionally inspire people in the process as we set out to do our work, and gives us, you know, meaning as I always talk, sorry, musician, amateur. I said that last time, but I always think in that mode as I talk to people, because I do this too for fun in life. Just
Yeah.
so
Oh,
we,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, we're all plugged into music one way or another. I've only in my whole life met one person who actually didn't like music. And, and I was impressed that I had even met one person, because I think that's extremely rare. We all have our own place in music, our own way that we plug into it. So whether we're writing it, listening to it, promoting it, whatever we're doing, I think it's a very important part of the human experience.
absolutely. And it's kind of a soundtrack to our lives in a sense, even for people who may be passive listeners. Music is everywhere. Everything we
Yes.
do has music in the background. We like it, we like to bring it to the forefront. I mean, people who
Mhm.
are really into music like to see music brought to the forefront. But if maybe for someone who's a passive music fan, they encounter music every day, no matter what they're doing, and they don't sometimes
Yes.
even realize it. So it's bringing them, helping them to, you know, be exposed to some different types of music that may not be so background, but just the forefront, like, you know, artists work towards.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so let's just start at the top of the album. And I just thought, you know, what better way? I think it's so exciting for people to get to hear directly from an artist. You know, because you know, over the years there's so much speculation of, whoa, this person wrote this because of that, or this person,
Yeah.
you know, this was about that person or that specific, you know, everyone wants that. But just to kind of get a general, or depending on, you know, how much an artist shares in interviews and different things, you know, what is a song about, or what, how did it come about making the instrumentation, everything from the lyrics to the instrumentation to the overall feeling, and what you were thinking when you wrote it.
Well, the first cut on the record is, and I have it here with me so I can remind myself, because sometimes I forget.
Sure.
Here it is.
And I gotta say real fast, since you're showing the album cover, I love that the electric
Do you
ukulele.
have a do you have a physical copy? We
I
should.
don't have a physical copy yet.
Okay. Well, okay. We'll make sure you get one.
Oh, thank you so much.
So
I'm in the physical music world. We talked about that a little bit last time about how,
yeah.
yeah, that transition from physical to digital took place, and I'm all about having a physical copy of things, you know. So, but I love the
Okay.
fact that the little ukulele is on the cover, the electric
Yeah.
ukulele. I love it.
Yeah. I don't stray far from that. In fact, it's right here.
Love it.
So this is the track listing. And oops, let me get that right there. So the first song is called You Baby. And the reason it's first actually is, well, the whole record's very sexy, very feminine. And I had recently finished a mix of You Baby, and I was traveling with someone and I played that song in the car. And I was talking about the album and how I was trying to decide about the song order. And he said, oh, I think that song should be first because it's so inviting. And this is someone who knows nothing about music, which is, I mean, nothing technically about
Right.
music. And sometimes that is the best feedback you can get, because it's so, it's not mediated by knowledge, right? It's very fresh how they're hearing, they're listening very freshly. So I thought, you know, he's right about that. And when it came time to put the song order together, I tried immediately putting that first, and it really helped everything else fall into place, because he was correct. It's a very inviting song. It's very relaxed and very, well, it's really friendly. I mean, I don't, you
Yeah.
know, it's very sexy, very friendly,
Uh-huh.
it's got a kind of a bossa beat. It is a bossa beat, which is a really feel good beat. It's very easy. So it's a nice entry to the record. And I realized, oh, he's right. That's me saying to the listener, you know, yeah, come on in. No attachment to the outcome. Just come and listen.
Yeah, yeah. I love that when you can solicit or, advice from someone that just in a passive kind of a way, like, hey, what do you think? And not the technical, like you said, not the technical, not like, well, you got to start with a big drum beat, or you got to start with this. It's just,
Right.
yeah, I like this. It's inviting the emotional part of the song,
Yes.
not the structure.
Yes.
Although we talk about structure, we love strong song structure, very important.
Yeah.
We talked about that, but sometimes just to get an honest opinion from someone, I like the way that this starts out. I like the way that, it's inviting.
Yeah, it drew him right into the song. So I thought, so I really listened to that. Now, this is not to say that I don't love to talk to producers, engineers, and musicians about
Right.
and we will talk about that today too. It's really, anything about, it's all good. I'll talk about any aspect of music. Really, it's all, I'm fascinated by all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to get the feedback from both sides of the emotional side, the feel, and then also the production side, and that both sides have their place in the process, of course. But it's like, it's nice to get it from both sides, so it's not all one-ended. It's
Yeah.
the whole full picture.
Yeah, big picture.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tapestry.
Yes. Oh yeah. Um, The Kiss I Didn't Get Last Night. Now, that was a song that had been released earlier with a video. Is that the video with the sunglasses that I love?
Yes, yes.
Love the
Very
sunglasses.
LA.
Yes.
Shot that in LA. It's very LA. I mean, there are a few actual settings in the video. Mostly it was shot in studio, but it has that feel to it. And that song, so yes, that was released already as a single. And I also released an acoustic version of that song, which had a very different feel. It was very sensitive and very, just a very different emotional tone. And that did well also. It has its own lyric video, and that was one I put together with my guitarist in Glasgow. And we're working on a whole acoustic collection. In any case, that song, The Kiss I Didn't Get Last Night, the reason that one came second is that the rhythm of it really changes up from the bossa feel of the first one. There's kind of a slow hip hop feel to the rhythm. To call it hip hop is completely not what it is, but there's a little bit of a feel of that
Sure.
in the rhythm, and it really changed up the energy from that first song. And so, having invited the listener in, then we want to go, okay, wake up, let's see what else is here. We're not just going to kind of drift through this, right? We're going to listen for what else, something different.
Right.
And not so different that they don't completely fit together, because it still has that same kind of very feminine, sexy feeling to it, and very, I keep saying very. I have to take that word out of my vocabulary and look for a different word. But it fits with the whole Sweet Little Mystery theme.
Yeah.
It's about the mystery of encountering or wishing to encounter a person, wishing to make a connection, knowing that connection is there, but it's very elusive, and the mystery behind that. So I felt this song really fit into that collection under the aegis of Sweet Little Mystery, that whole theme.
Right. Right. It's interesting you talk about, an acoustic track also being done, and when you start a song, I would imagine sometimes it's interesting to see if it becomes a song that's gonna be a little more mellow, or if it's gonna have the hip hop beat, or or even taking it from a rock song into more of an acoustic, or the other way around. I think that would probably be pretty interesting as you evolve with the song. You might think of it as a slow song at the beginning, say, no, this has got to have a beat. This needs something, or vice versa.
Yeah, some songs translate better between different approaches. Oh, You Baby, as I wrote that, it had a certain feel that I knew that was going to be the feel. It wasn't ever going to rock hard or anything. And the Kiss I Didn't Get Last Night has a heavy backbeat to it, the way it is on the record. And then the acoustic version doesn't really have that. It has a whole different feel with the beautiful, almost classical guitar-based approach of the acoustic guitars. and the vocal is softer.
Yeah. It's neat to have both worlds of a song. And I always enjoy it sometimes when you hear a an artist with a classic rock hit or something that you've always heard fast and they take it down to just at the piano or something.
Yes, when it's stripped down and you hear the skeleton of the song, and then you're more likely to hear the actual structure of the song as well, because you're not hearing the production, you're not hearing the energy of the electric guitars or whatever it is that's really driving the song. And when you strip it down to a really simple, like you'd hear on Acoustic Cafe, and it's just an acoustic guitar, a piano, whatever. Joni Mitchell wrote on a zither in the early days, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Then you really hear what the different parts, the actual arrangement of the song, what it actually consists of. And you often also hear the lyric a whole lot more clearly. And you hear, oh, that's what they're saying there. You know,
Yeah.
there can be words that get by you in pop or rock, especially in rock, where the vocal tends to be a little bit submerged and it can be hard to hear the lyric. And suddenly that comes clear. And so you get a whole different entry into the song that way.
That's definitely true. And I think lyrics, when you listen to lyrics, sometimes we do mishear them because of sometimes maybe something in the production or
I
something.
know, it's funny, all the things that we've made up when we weren't sure we were, especially when I was little. I can't remember offhand, but I made up a whole lot of stuff to replace what I couldn't understand.
And I find my son doing some of that right now. And I'll hear him, we talk about how our parents influenced us with their music. Well, now my son, I'll make it like an iPad, an iPod. He's got our old iPod, throw some songs in there for him, and I'll hear him singing songs that I grew up with around the house. And the lyrics, like the main line is there, and after that it gets a little sketchy. And
Yes.
I laugh sometimes. It's really cute and endearing how sometimes how far off they are. But I did it too. We did it too. When we were
Right,
growing up.
right. Where there's sound forms at that point, you know, we're still working with sound forms
Right.
as opposed to actual words, and I'm completely fascinated by sound forms. That could be a whole other conversation that does support all my lyric writing. But yeah, meanwhile, there are actual words in my songs, and there's some oohs and ahs. There are a lot of oohs and ahs on this record, actually.
And I think lyric videos too, we brought up the lyric video a moment ago, and I think that's something too that really does bring people into what was said, because they'll be watching a video. We're all in a mode where we're moving from thing. I think there's almost almost too much sometimes,
Oh,
you know.
yes. Yes. Oh, yes.
We're at the gas
Yes.
pump and we're seeing news,
Oh, yeah.
radio,
Oh,
and just
yes,
everywhere.
nonstop, really. I mean, I think we've been subjugated or subjected, I should say, to overkill with music. It's used everywhere, and it's used to manipulate your mood. And so I think I'm really picky about where and when I listen to music, because I'm very affected by it, and I don't want to be manipulated unless I want to be taking part in it consciously. So I listen, and I suppose because I'm a producer and a writer, of course, and a singer and an instrumentalist, that I listen more consciously. I can't help it. I
Right.
mean, I can't help it. It doesn't matter what's playing. I'm hearing what's going on inside of it and making discernment about it, and whether I want to actually be hearing it right then or not, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But lyric videos are a great vehicle, I think, for songwriting, for songwriters, and for those who are really interested in what's going on in a song, in a really good song with interesting images and
Yeah.
twists and turns. You know, if there's twists and turns in the lyric, and you get to actually see it written out as you're listening to it. I really enjoy a lyric video myself. When I make them, I do more than a lot of times. Lyric videos are just a photograph with the lyric running as the song plays. But I always put a lot of they're almost like official music videos, or
Yeah.
in some cases behind the scenes videos with and sometimes it's just motion graphics, but uh, something else going on visually besides the lyric running across the screen.
Right. And I'm glad that this has kind of evolved, because it gives another medium that is helpful for promoting and helps people to then really realize what the lyrics are. and
Yeah,
understand where their
yeah.
songwriters are coming from.
You might get a really different sense of what that song is about, that you always thought it was about a certain thing, and you listen again and you're, oh, when you see the words, okay, I didn't realize that, you know.
Right, right. So the next track on the album is the title track, correct? Sweet Little Mystery?
Yes, that is correct. Sweet Little Mystery. And this one softens up, and it felt like a good follow-up to The Kiss I Didn't Get Last Night, because it's a very floaty, dreamy track. The band that I recorded 7 out of these 8 songs with are, this is my guys in Nashville, and we've created this sound that I really love, that has this really floaty thing going on. There's always a backbeat. There's always a really catchy backbeat, thanks to Grady Saxman, my drummer there. And then you can really hear it in this song, Sweet Little Mystery. My guitarist, Tim Galloway, has got a couple of sounds, and I might have mentioned this in our interview before, our discussion before, but he's got some sounds that he's created himself, effects for his guitar. You can't even really tell it's guitar half the time, the way that he plays.
Yeah.
But he has a reverb, and I think he's got a delay as well that are just named after me. So it's Carrington reverb.
I
And
love
so,
that.
yeah, yeah. So we use that a lot. And he just does this beautiful floaty thing with the delay on his guitar. So there's a lot of that going on. And I shot a music video, which you mentioned. It was a Valentine's Day release that we shot out on a lake in Texas. And it was just the perfect setting for this song because of that whole floating feeling. And there we are floating on this lake. I mean, we had an engine, so we were going. We went really
It's a very
fast.
quiet engine that you just let coast for a while, right?
Yeah, we would coast, and but I did ask the captain, if we could go really fast. So we went fast, and then he said, well, let's spin around, so then he spun the boat around like this for me. We had such a fun day. So anyway, the floating is reflected in the video. The floating that I feel is in the song itself, the floating that's in the song itself is reflected in the production and the musicianship. And then the video reflects in turn that floating. So it evolved really, really nicely. And it's that song, I guess the reason it's the title track is that it really encompasses the way I live my life, which is that I live in a state of wonder,
Yeah.
And I mean a state of, there's always a feeling of awe about whatever's going on, whether it's good or we deem it bad or whatever. I'm just like, wow, really beholding it without judgment and just taking it in that open-minded, open-hearted state. And then there's also, this doesn't come into the record as much, but for me, there's the wonder too of like paying attention. Like, I wonder what's really going on there, because there's so much of that right now. You've got to really, really pay attention and dig deeper than what's being presented to you on the surface and, in public. So, but mainly the Sweet Little Mystery is referring to that sense of wonder. And a lot of my songs, in fact, not every song on this record, but most of them use some form of romance as a metaphor. And I use that as a metaphor because romance cuts in so many different directions. There's just so many different ways that you can talk about it and feel about it. And Sweet Little Mystery just kind of encompasses all the ways and the whole thing of a romance in general, the mystery of that, like why do you fall in love with somebody? And we can list all the reasons, but at the base of it, there's that little mystery.
Yeah, because we're all such individual people, and we all have our own idiosyncrasies and our own quirks and our own qualities, good qualities, bad qualities, whatever it is. And what is it that allows us to overlook the bad and like the good, or focus on only the good, or to find the blend of.
Yeah, and what is it in another person that we need, or that we think that we need? Why You know, what do they fulfill, or what question do they ask for us? What question do we think that they answer for us? I mean, there's a lot going on there.
I have to tell you, I absolutely love this song, and I find myself, it just comes to my head. It pops into my head, and I'll be humming it, and I love,
Oh,
yeah, it really does. I love the ethereal sound of it, like we talked
it
about.
is, that's a good word. It is ethereal. You know, I wrote this in a flat in Glasgow in the winter, in February, actually right around Valentine's Day of 2020. And there's snow referenced in the song, and that was snow was falling into the River Clyde, which is the river that runs into Glasgow. And I just remember looking out the window and watching that snow and the mystery of snow falling into water. I mean, just right.
Yeah.
There's so much in any image like that. So I feel that the mood of that time and that moment infuses the song for me personally, although someone else is going to hear something completely different, and that difference is what we're referring to here. Like, why do people fall in love? Those things about them that are the same and the things that are different.
Right. Absolutely. And it's we all, like you said, we all have our own different ways of interpreting a song, but it's so neat to get to hear it from the artist, and what you were thinking when you saw the snow falling, and you thought about relationships and the mystery of how a relationship happens, how people click together.
Yeah, right. Or not,
or not.
Also unrequited love. There's just
That's
so
right.
many forms of romance.
That's right. I remember you were talking, just going back to the video for a quick moment. I remember you were saying how fun it was that the gentleman who was on the boat with you, tough guy, and that
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call him a gentleman. He's definitely a tough guy.
and to see him have to play that, he played that character,
Yes.
chuckling under your breath.
Yes, he had to be very tender, and he was good at it. He rocked at being tender.
If you didn't say that to us in the last time you talked with all of us, I would have never known. He was very gentle on just smiling, and just, I pictured, it felt like a gondola going through Italy or something,
Yes,
that's the feeling
yes.
I got of it,
Yes. Well, I think, as a captain and in maneuvering his boat, he is very tender with his boat, and he knows how to run it, so that whole feeling translated really well, I thought. He's certainly not an actor, and that's what I loved about shooting it, is not working with an actor.
Yeah. It's just genuine. It's just
yeah, he's the real deal. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'll refrain from saying more about that, but yeah.
So the next track on the album, Precious Kisses.
Yes, and again, okay, so that one comes next because of an energy change up. So we've done this very more ethereal, floaty thing, this dreamy thing, and Precious Kisses comes right in with a very strong beat. And it's certainly not rock. There isn't really any rock on this record except maybe Sweet Young Thing, and that's a little bit more of a funk thing. Yeah. And there's a little bit of it in I Saw You Be a Man. But Precious Kisses has a really strong beat. And it needed to change up the energy there again. Like, let's wake up from this dream we were just in and jump into this song. Which that song was actually, and I can't remember if we talked about this, but that was inspired by the solstice, the summer solstice, where by the rhythms of the sun coming and going, it leaves and then it comes back, and then it leaves again, and then it comes back again. That's so you're always saying goodbye, but you're always saying hello, and the kisses are goodbye kisses and they're hello kisses. And so there's a feeling of I think of the Earth sometimes, we're not really alone. There's a lot of life in the galaxy, and I think there's a lot of life in the solar system besides human life, but still there's a feeling of a loneliness of the Earth turning alone in space, and we turn away from the sun, and then we turn back to the sun, right? And so I was expressing that sense of loneliness that I think everybody experiences here on this planet. And then but reassuring, because the sun always comes back. We're not really alone.
Yeah.
It just feels that way sometimes.
I just love the way that you're so in tune with the environment and around you that, and we sometimes we don't take the time to realize the beauty of the earth and all and the galaxy, everything, to think to just when we're so busy in our lives. I'm sure this, you know, you're out promoting an album, you're talking to people like myself, you're working with publicists and producers and all the other passions that you have. You keep very busy, but do you find the time to just stop and absorb what's around you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that has to be kind of built into everything that I do in order for me to be able to process, because I have to write songs. I don't really have a choice. And in order to write them, I have to process. So that means I have to be processing on a certain level all the time, regardless of what else I'm doing.
Right,
I don't
right.
really know how else to say that, but yeah.
And it brings so much into your music, because it's something that you're so in tune with that it just it becomes.
Yes, it's presence. It's actually being present. So I think that presence is there in the songs as well. Yeah.
That
Mhm.
definitely translates. I really feel it translates in your music. You know that it's we have to intentionally create that space. Otherwise, it won't happen because, like we said a moment ago, how busy our lives can be and how much we're infiltrated with information to be
Oh,
able to step aside. And
yeah, everything can go by. Well, and you can just your whole experience can just be a blur of appointments or whatever if you're not tuning in. And I think music helps us to do that, helps us to tune in
yeah,
to something besides all the information.
right, right.
Yeah.
So after Precious Kisses, we have Baby Played Me.
Baby played me. Yeah, that song, let's see. You know, I made a lyric video of this song. This was released as a single in the UK a couple of months ago, I want to say. And uh, it gets interpreted as a heartbreak song, and I guess it is. I really intended it as it's kind of an homage to musicians, to musicianship, and how it doesn't matter what I'm going through in a certain phase. As soon as I'm rehearsing or performing or recording with other musicians, their playing lifts me into another space. So I may think that I'm in the midst of some kind of tragedy, but all that falls away because music itself takes over, and it's delivered to me by the the artistry of the guys that I work with. Like I was mentioning that, you know, I could go into the studio with my guys in Nashville and I could have some real difficult thing going on in my life. And that would all just melt like cotton candy, you know, because the sounds that they're making, because the understanding of what I'm doing as a songwriter and as a vocalist is so keen that it just lifts me completely out of whatever trap I got myself into. And that's a really beautiful experience. And I think this is something that we can experience as listeners as well. And that's what that song is about. Baby played me. And one of the lines is, baby played me like a little guitar. And it's as if I become the instrument. You know, and I do as the vocalist. I mean, I use you know, as a vocalist, you don't hold an instrument. You are the instrument, right? You learn to use your body as an instrument. So I'm in tune with the whole feeling of being an instrument, and that makes it even easier for me to feel that way when, say, a guitarist is playing. It's almost like I feel like I'm the guitar. I mean, that's how much I connect. So that song really speaks to that whole experience. There's a really cool lyric video for this song that has a lot of behind the scenes footage on my YouTube channel, and it's got uh, footage of guys in Scotland and in Nashville, and I think there might be a couple shots from a tour in England as well. Just my appreciation for that, it cannot be expressed enough.
Right, right.
So it's a ballad. It's kind of feels like a heartache ballad. It's got that feel to it, but it transcends in the chorus.
Right. And I do love the instrument references and all of that, like the guitar and all. It's so neat, and it has to be so. People have, I think, so many people that love music. We find ourselves with happy songs and sad songs. If we're in a down mood, we have that one song we put on. If we're in a
Yeah.
great mood, we put on this really inspiring music. So it's a constant thing, and so music does lift us. And
Yes, it
walking into the
does.
studio, I'm sure it's amazing to just be lifted by your band, by your music.
Yes, it is. And again, for any listener at all, music itself will do it. So yeah, I mean, it's really an homage to musicianship in the form of a lovelorn mod pop ballad is how I think of it.
So we're at the sixth track of the album here. We're on I Saw You Be a Man. What can you tell us about how that one came together?
Well, that song is and it comes next because the beat really changes up. Again, Baby Played Me has got a very kind of smooth ballad feel to it. And it's very a listener, a drummer friend of mine heard it and said it's almost like a book with chapters. And so following that, I really needed something that was going to have a strong beat. And this one certainly does. I Saw You Be a Man. So this one is really taking the extremes, or maybe I shouldn't say extremes, but maybe the archetypal qualities of the masculine and the feminine and how they interact and balance each other and work against each other and work for each other, work with each other. And it's a totally sexy song. I mean, the whole record is, but that is the most as explicit as I ever get. I mean, it's got a lot of it's got a lot of really cool images in it. So this one, that one should probably have a lyric video. I'm actually working on a video of that right now. I just started going over the footage for this because I shot a lot of footage for this when I was in Scotland last year. So be on the lookout for that on my YouTube channel. And there's like 3, maybe 4 different sections to this song. It's kind of a complex song in terms of the structure of it and the melody, the melodic elements of it, and the rhythmic elements of it. So it's when we shot video footage for it, I was shooting with my band in Glasgow, and so I got a chance to I had written it on an acoustic. I'll show you the instrument that I wrote it on. I actually wrote this on this wacky little ukulele that I have, that I wrote it on this instrument, which is very but I knew it wasn't going to stay an acoustic song, and so I got with my drummer, my Nashville drummer, Grady Saxman, and we put this really intense beat to it that I'd had in my mind. I played him some references, and then when I was in Scotland with my guys there, we were working off of that recording, and we had to run through it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again for the camera. And we all got to know the feeling of it really well. I mean, we came into that shoot knowing it. You don't want to come into a shoot unprepared when you're going to be lip syncing and so forth. And so we all were really well prepared. Those guys are total pros. But by the end of that shoot, we knew it really, really well. I'll say that. And it was cold where we were shooting. We were in an abandoned glue factory in Glasgow, and there was an ice storm going on, and it was very cold. There was no heat. Okay, no heat. And so we were all bundled up. I think we did one shot where everyone was in parkas. And I got to know that song really, really better than I had ever known it before. There's a lot of energy to it. And as I was saying, there's a lot of different sections to it. And so you have to kind of maneuver your way through the song if you're playing it. And maybe listeners will hear that as they listen to it. We certainly learned it in that video shoot.
it has to be so neat to see the song come to life in the studio, because like you said, you started with this instrument and you're strumming some chords and singing some lyrics, and then you had the drum beat, and you just watch piece by piece it come together with a live with live musicians, as opposed to having to use, you know, computer equipment to say, okay, I'm going to have press button number 72 and make this
Right,
sound like a,
right,
you know,
right.
but to be with them and have them be adjusting on the go based on what you're expressing to them.
Yes,
I think it needs a little
yes.
more of this, or I think it needs more of that, or
Yes, absolutely. And in that particular situation, when I'm working with those guys, one of the studios we work in, there's a really nice flow between the rooms. And so I can walk from room to room and check and see what they're doing. And I mean, I'm on my mic in one of the rooms, so I can talk to them, but I can also walk through the rooms and check in and see just exactly what they're up to.
make sure they're not into trouble. Make sure they're staying on
That's right.
task and focusing on the music and keeping that studio time on track. You're not in a cold building for too many hours.
That's right.
So next we have Under the Sky. Under the Sky.
Yes, Under the Sky, which I just released actually as a single on UK radio, and I just a few weeks ago, and the video for this song just dropped not long ago, a week ago, 2 weeks. I have trouble keeping track of time.
Yeah.
I think we all do these days. Time has become a very elusive, tricky thing. It's not what we thought it was. But anyway, the video is new, and this song is very and again, as far as track order is concerned, this moves into a very different space from I Saw You Be a Man. This is a really earthbound, organic song. Well, the singer is earthbound, but is communing with the stars. So it's a lot about the relationship between the earth and the stars. So I'm not going to say it's a nature song, but there's a lot of, but maybe it is. There's a lot of Mother Earth in this song. There's a lot of the goddess of the Earth Mother, Pachamama, she's sometimes referred to, or Gaia, is in charge of this song. So that's what I was tuning into when I wrote it. And also when I shot the video, which was shot on 16mm film. Actually, it's a vintage piece that was shot quite a while back. But I recorded the song, I re-recorded the song not long ago, and had all the guys, we did it at the same tempo so that I could set it to that film the film that we'd shot. This is a longer song, and it just had to be because I do not know why. I guess the expression of the elements in the song, rain and desert, because I wrote it when I was in the desert, where you're very open to the sky and you can see the stars so well.
Right.
The sky itself, the movement of the sky, there's water in the song, even though it was shot in the desert, there's images of a river there. And all of those elements required a certain amount of time to be fully expressed. And then we brought in a drummer after I had recorded it in Nashville. I did some tracking in upstate New York, in Rochester, New York, with Sam Polizzi, who did the mix of this song, and brought me into contact with a really great drummer, a guy who used to play with the Goo Goo Dolls, Mikey Lasapanara up there, and he played some acoustic drums over the loop that Grady Saxman had created. And the last almost entire minute of the song is freeform drums on a drum kit. And I don't mean freeform like out of the 4/4 rhythm, but really great fills, and it almost becomes trance-like, wouldn't you say? It just keeps repeating. The chorus repeats. There's a call and answer that happens, and that's call and answers like between the earth and the stars. And I'm doing this vocal call and answer, and then the drums running over that. I found it just uplift. It just kind of up. I don't know, not upgraded, but kind of up the ante of the song in that last minute.
So neat to hear this. It's so neat to hear this. Like how else would a listener be able to get into the mind of an artist like that, to know what was happening when you wrote it? It's just so
There's
inspiring.
a lot of layers there,
Yeah,
right? There's a lot of layers.
yeah.
There's so much more I could say about all of these because I haven't even talked about the process that they went through because some of them were mixed by an engineer here in Austin, Scott Clark, and released as singles. A couple of them were, and then the whole album went to Sam in Rochester, New York, and he did this incredible job with the mix. And the mix is a crucial part of the production process. It's hard to even describe what goes into that, but I worked very closely with him because I'm very involved at all levels. I don't just pass it off. As a producer, I'm very, very involved, and I could talk about mixing for hours. So don't get me started with a mix engineer. I actually just spent 8 days with them in upstate New York working on new material. So I'm excited about that. So those guys, the production team, post-production team up there was involved in this record as well. And that song in particular.
Right, right. But I think as people listen to music, they just don't, some people do because they're musicians and whatnot, but the average, everyday, I like music kind of person doesn't realize all that goes into this from pre to post production and the song, everything. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. This song was written on a keyboard, actually, unlike, well, let's see, on this record, The Kiss I Didn't Get Last Night and Under the Sky were written on keyboards, and the others were written on stringed instruments. Anyway, that's another element, of the process.
Yeah, yeah. So we're on to the final track of the album, and Sweet Sweet Young Thing. Just want to ask you, is it hard to pick that closing track? Because if people are sequencing the album along with you, listening, not cherry picking songs, is it hard to pick the final track that they're going to hear to leave that lasting feeling of what you were trying to put together? Was it hard to think about what's going to be last, or?
No, it was pretty easy. Because I knew, for one thing, that song was really different how that came about, because that was recorded in Glasgow. I wasn't planning on recording it, but I was rehearsing with my band there, and we were shooting video. And as we were rehearsing, we were going through a bunch of songs, because at the time I thought I was going to be back there. This was last February. I was planning on being right back there in April and doing some more shooting. And then we were going to be on tour for the summer. And that, of course, didn't happen. But meanwhile, we were in rehearsal, and I really wanted to rehearse that song. And we started rehearsing that song, and those guys just sounded so hot on that song. And I didn't write this. This was written by Carole King, Jerry Goffin, and Michael Nesmith. It's a classic from they probably wrote it in the late 60s or something.
Right.
It was released by the Monkees. No one ever paid any attention to that song, and I always thought it was a really great song. So I wanted to give it some more attention. And that band, God, those guys just did such a great job with it. So I said, and I knew we were going to go in the studio and record one song. I didn't know which one it was going to be. I just thought, okay, we're going to rehearse. We're going to see what really comes out hot, and then we'll record that. So that was the one. And we went into a studio in Glasgow and banged it out. And I actually recorded the vocals there as well. Vocals on this record recorded all over the place. But that one was recorded in Glasgow. So that's the only cover song, and the energy is really different. It came out kind of funk, it's a different band, it's a different feel, and it's very high energy, but it fits under the Sweet Little Mystery umbrella of just, very sensual, happy energy, an energy of being inside the human skin. What does it feel like, when you're really turned on? So it just seemed like the right song to end with, rather than dropping it in the middle of this flow, and then boom, we have a great kind of a firecracker at the end of the record.
Yeah, yeah. So interesting to see how all the songs weave in and are interconnected through the way that you set them. It's such a neat thing to hear that process and how this came together for you. So exciting.
Yeah, because it's got its own life force, right? Each song has its own little universe. And I've been told this about my songs, is that each one is very different from they all fit together, but each one has its own character, its own quality, its own, I think of it as its own little world, its own little universe. And then you put them together, and that creates a whole other universe.
Yeah.
So it's fun creating universes, you know, being the god of our own little world,
Right,
the
right,
goddess, whatever you want to call it.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of goddess in this record, I must say.
Sweet little mystery, sweet little
Yeah.
mystery. And again, it's so neat to see you holding up a physical copy because of the fact that, much to my wife's chagrin, I mean, I probably have about 10 or 12,000 CDs and I just, they take up space. They take up a lot more space. I used to work for a record label many years ago and you
Oh,
lot-
oh,
lots and lots
right.
of music. Yeah. So, and then just as a fan, I buy
Yeah.
a lot of music. I'm still buying physical music. So I'm still
Yes, I know. I like it. Yeah, I like the uh it's not just memorabilia. There's something about it that, and especially when the packaging is really is really nice. I always thought it would be fun. Now I can't do this because chocolate melts in the heat, but I always wanted to do a CD that was a box of chocolates, you know, with the CD on top. It would have to have its own refrigeration system, and then we're getting really tricky.
But what you could do is you could have it for like Alaska and colder climates where it's cold all year long and just
Right?
have it manufactured and kept there.
Yeah, that's right. The
and everything's
Alaska
cold.
edition. Yeah.
So if you start in the cold markets and then you just kind of keep it in those colder markets.
That's a good idea. I'll think about that. I could also do it with some kind of, like, a little jewelry box was another idea that I
Yes, I
had.
like that. Wow.
Right? So if there's 8 songs, maybe there's 8 sections, and in each section, which sits underneath the disc, there's a little, you know, Jack in the Box prize.
Oh, how neat. What a
I've
neat
got all
idea.
sorts of ideas about
Yeah.
merchandise.
Your brain is always going with things.
Oh,
Exciting. So exciting.
yeah. See if we can get it to shut off every now and then.
I want to be respectful of your time here. I know you've got a busy day ahead of you. So I just
And
want
you
to ask you, one last question. We're moving our way through this year and people are starting to get out a little bit. And I know you talked about wanting to get on the road when it's time and you had lots of touring plans. What do you
Mhm.
think at this point for being on the road later in the year, early next year?
It probably early next year, and I'm not saying that for sure, but I mostly tour in the UK, and international travel just isn't happening right now. That's
Right,
just, you
right.
know, and the venues are not there. I mean, I know they're talking about festivals happening, some festivals over there that are happening, and for sure there are some here. But I'm right at the moment standing back and watching it unfold because I think these times are not as predictable as people would like to think that they
Yeah.
are. We want predictability because it makes us feel more secure, but I'm not so sure about that. I do have some plans about things that I want to do, maybe live on YouTube, but I'll refrain from getting too far into that because that's hasn't come clear in my mind yet. It's still cooking in there. So we will see. You have to stay tuned to my website, carringtonmacduffie.com. And I really recommend my YouTube channel. There's lots of great stuff on there and more to come really soon.
So now we know that's our starting point, the YouTube channel. And then there's so many other things, Spotify and TikTok you mentioned last time, and so many different places but YouTube would be a nice place to encompass a lot of the things that you're doing, it sounds like.
Yes, that's true. I mean, from my website, you can navigate to any of the social media platforms. I'm pretty active on Instagram, but YouTube's probably my favorite because I can do the most with really the the most content, you know, the most depth to the content.
Right. Well, Carrington, I thank you so much. This has been just a complete pleasure to hear how this album, track by track, is the one embodiment of of this, the work that you've been doing right now.
Well, thank you so much for your interest. I mean, and I can hear your intelligence about music and your love of music. And it's just a pleasure to be able to communicate about that.
Thank you so much for that. And I wish you continued success as you continue to promote this album and get it out to the masses and hope that when you do get that UK tour, you can swing back a little bit and do a couple of shows in the States here, and we could, you know.
Oh, yeah, I'll be doing it. That's gonna happen. It's just a matter of time, and I'll make sure you get a physical copy.
Oh, thank you.
And if
So,
anyone else wants one, I just set up a new store on my website, so visit the store. There's other stuff there too, bandanas and t-shirts and stuff like that, if you like stuff.
oh, absolutely. Well, there's lots of people who like stuff, so we'll make sure they get there. So thank you
Okay.
so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your week, okay?
You too. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Peace.